Story name: The Cursed Village. The village's name is Rupnagar. Beside the village flows a river called Rupnarayan. The villagers make their living by fishing in this river. All around, green trees and small earthen houses make this village mesmerizingly beautiful. Hey Lakshan, are you going fishing today? Didn't you hear the news? I heard on the radio this morning that there's going to be a big storm tonight. What? No, I didn't hear anything here. So does that mean you are not coming? No, I am not coming. You know how dangerous the river can be. You have seen how raw the waters got the last time. I won't risk it. The river Rupnagar constantly shows different moods. It's just natural for it. Sometimes it erodes one bank and builds the other. At others time it reverses the process. In this endless game of creation and destruction, the river keeps flowing, but occasionally its water becomes terrifying. Krishna, a fisherman, relies on this river for his livelihood. Fishing in its water feeds his family. During the day, his young son Kalu often accompanies him to cast nets in the river. They are very poor. Whatever little fish they catch keeps their household running, just barely. But today fortune hasn't smiled upon them. Not a single fish was caught all day, and now Lakshan mention of an approaching storm felt like a bolt from the blue. Kalu, I didn't catch anything this morning, and I won't be able to go out tonight either. Father, if we go tonight, we might catch a lot of fish in the nets. No one else will go out in this storm. No, I won't go tonight. Didn't you hear what Lakshan said? The radio warned of a terrible storm and heavy rain. Let's just go home now. By evening, the storm had begun with full force. The entire village had fallen silent. It was 10 p.m. Though the storm had slightly subsided, the rain was still pouring heavily, accompanied by the occasional rumble of thunder. Krishna and his wife sat awake, worried. Kalu had fallen asleep. Krishna couldn't sleep. His mind was consumed with anxiety about tomorrow. There's no food left in the house, he thought. Even if we go hungry, how can I let Kalu serve? Breaking the silence, Krishna's wife asked, what will we do tomorrow? Everything we had is gone now. Don't worry, Krishna replied. I will figure something out. You will see. But deep down, he knew the solution wasn't so simple. He glanced outside and thought to himself, the storm has eased a little. If I go to the river now, maybe I can catch something. If I don't go, how will we survive tomorrow? His wife tried to stop him. Don't go, she pleaded. By morning, we'll find a way. But Krishna was determined. The sound of the rain only fueled his resolve. The rain is heavy, he thought. The fields near the river might be flooded. That's where I will find plenty of fish. Believing that no one else would venture out tonight, Krishna decided to take the risk. Alone he stepped into the rain. The rhythm downpour masking the silence of the empty village streets. Darkness involved everything around him. Visibility was poor. All he could hear was the relentless sounds of raindrops hitting the ground. As he walked on, Krishna saw a faint light in the distance. He hesitated. Does this mean I am not alone? Are others out fishing too? That would be trouble. If too many people are out, there won't be enough fish to go around. Thinking quickly, Krishna decided to head toward the northern fields, a place he was sure no one else would dare to go. But then a thought struck him. Habu The memory of Habu the madman sent a chill down his spine. So Krishna brushed off the fear, reminding himself that Habu was long gone. The northern fields carried an air reputation. Even during the day, few dared to venture there, let alone at night. But Krishna pressed on his hunger and desperation overpowering his fear. The rain intensified as he moved closer to the fields, his mind filled with dread, uncertainty, and the faint hope of catching enough fish to feed his family. But Krishna, ignoring all his fears, kept moving toward the northern fields. The rain intensified, growing heavier with each passing moment. Slowly, Krishna disappeared into the relentless downpour. Back at home, his wife sat anxiously consumed with worry. She prayed for Krishna's safety, begging the Almighty to protect him and bring home from unharmed. Lost in her thought, she eventually drifted off to sleep. The next morning, just interrupted in the village, a crowd had gathered in the northern fields. There, Krishna's lifeless body was floating in the waterlogged field. His motionless frame bore no sign of injury anywhere. His wife sat by his body, weeping uncontrollably, blamed herself on his death. If only I had stopped him, she cried. If only I had tried harder. Lakshan, cooking on his own tears, said, I told Krishna that not to go many sometimes, but he didn't listen. He left in the storm to catch fish, and now this has happened. The villagers could not understand how Krishna had died. There was no clear cause. Nevertheless, they carried his body to the cremation grounds and performed his last rites. Days turned into weeks after the tragedy, but Krishna's family fell deeper into despair. Their household was now adrift like a boat without a rudder. They depended on the kindness of the villagers to survive. Yet, Kalu, Krishna's son, began to realize he could not go on forever. How long can we keep relying on others' help? Kaluthwa, I have to do something. I must take responsibility. Determined, he decided he would start fishing from the next day. But when he told his mother, she was adamant. You are not going alone, she said firmly. Take your Lakshan Kaka with you. We will go fishing together at dusk tomorrow, Kalu said. And so Kalu and Lakshan prepared to set out together, stepping into the uncertain future, carrying both the weight of their grief and the hope of rebuilding their lives. That evening, Kalu bid farewell to his mother and set out with Lakshan to catch fish. Both of them carried light torches in their hand, lighting their path in the dark. Within a short time, they caught plenty of fish. Seeing their success, Lakshan suggested they return home. Happy with their haul, they started walking back toward the village. On the way, Kalu mentioned his plan to visit the northern field the next day. Hearing this, Lakshan grew visibly uneasy, to say nervously, Nobody goes there, that place isn't safe. I have heard there plenty of fish, but it's better not to go at night. Serious? Kalu asked, why doesn't anyone go there? What's so dangerous about the place? Lakshan hesitated, his voice trembling as he replied, the spirit of Habu the madman roams those fields. Kalu didn't recognize the name. He had never heard of Habu before. The mention of a ghost made him laugh. Uncle, you believe in all this nonsense. You are such a secret cat. Still, deep down, Kalu was intrigued. He decided he would go to the northern fields alone. The next night, torch in hand, Kalu set out of the northern fields. The sky was covered in the thick black clouds, the darkness around him. The roads were deserted, and the air silence of the night was broken only by the distant croak of frogs and the occasional howl of the wind. The sounds seemed almost otherworldly, as if some malevolent presence was calling out. But Kalu felt no fear. With steady resolve, he marched toward the northern fields, where Habu's spirit was said to linger. When he arrived, Kalu wasted no time and began fishing. One by one, he caught some fine fish quickly, filling his net. The rumored ghostly presence didn't fuzz him in the slightest. He focused entirely on his task. Suddenly, he stopped a large fish swimming nearby. Excited, Kalu followed it further into the field, intent on catching it. Unknowingly, he ventured deeper and deeper into the waterlogged field, where an unseen danger awaited him. Behind him, a dark, elongated shadow began to form. It stood silently watching him from a distance. All oblivious to the shadow's presence, Kalu continued his pursuit of the fish. But then, without warning, the shadow extended two long arms toward him. Before Kalu could react, it struck him within tremendous force, sending him fast into the muddy water. Kalu gasped, trying to lift himself, but the shadow pressed him down, holding his face underwater. Its grip was unrelenting, preventing from breathing. The cold water filled Kalu's lungs as he struggled desperately. His torch extinguished and his gaze muffled by the murky depth. The malevolent shadow seemed determined to silence him forever. Early in the morning, Kalu's mother, consumed with worry, stepped out to search for her son. Her heart was heavy with fear. As Kalu hadn't returned home the previous night, she decided to go to Lakshan's house to ask about him, hoping for some news. Knocking on Lakshan's door, she called out, "Lakshan, have you seen Kalu? Did he come to you last night?" Lakshan, startled by her presence and questions, opened the door. Concern spread across his face. He replied, "No, Kalu didn't come to me." "Why? Didn't he return home?" Hearing this, Kalu's mother's worst fears began to take shape. Tears welled up in her eyes as she whispered, "She said he was going fishing last night. I told him not to go. He's just a boy. I don't know where he's gone." Lakshan's face turned pale. The memory of Kalu monitoring the northern fields flashed in his mind. He caught the door firm tightly and said in a trembling voice, "Could he have gone to the northern fields? He mentioned it last night, but I told him not to go." Kalu's mother's leg felt weak. She grabbed Lakshan's arm for support and pleaded, "We have to find him. Please come with me. If he's in the northern fields, he could be in danger." Without wasting another moment, the two of them set off toward the northern fields, giving their hearts with every step. Once again, the villagers gathered in the northern fields. Kalu's mother, screaming his name, ran toward the fields, desperate to find him. When they reached the spot, a horrifying sight awaited them. Floating lifeless in the waterlogged field was Kalu's body, eerily resembling how his father was found. Kalu's mother collapsed by his side, wailing uncontrollably as she clutched her son's cold body. The air filled with her heart-wrenching cries, echoing through the silent fields. The villagers stood stunned, their faces pale with fear. One question haunted everyone's mind. How did Kalu die? Who could have done this? Day passed, but the shadow of Kalu's death lingered heavily over the village. Then one day, news spread like wildfire. Another young man had been found dead in the northern fields. His lifeless body floated in the same murky water, just like Kalu's. The string of mysterious death left the villagers deep shaken. Fear and suspicion gripped their hearts as they began to speculate about the cause. Determined to find answer, they gathered once more to discuss what could be done. During the meeting, an elderly villager spoke up, his voice trembling with the weight of old memories. I think it's time we revise the story of the northern fields. He began. There's something you all need to know about what happened there long ago. Everyone turned their attention to the old man as he recounted the tale. A long time ago, his began disappearing mysteriously from the ponds in the northern fields. At first, we thought it was the work of fish stealing birds or wild cats. But then, one night, someone stopped a man fishing in the pond under the cover of darkness. That's when we decided to guard the pond at night to catch the thief. The villagers nodded, hanging on to his every word. The old man continued. One night while we were on guard, we saw a figure casting a net into the water. We surrounded the pond, torch in hand, and cornered the man. He had no escape. When we finally lighted our torches and saw his face, the old man paused, his voice quivering. It was Habu, the madman from the neighboring village. The villagers, enjoyed by Habu's repeated acts of fish thief, caught him that night and began beating him mercilessly. They accused him of stealing from their livelihood and showed no mercy. Habu, battered than and bruised, pleaded for his life, but the villagers were deaf to his cries. Eventually, they dragged him out of the village and cast him away. Habu ran for his life, disappearing into the darkness. The very next day, the villagers noticed something strange. Dead fish were floating on the surface of the northern pond. It didn't take them long to connect the dots. Suspecting that Habu had poisoned the pond in revenge, a group of villagers decided to track him down. They found him hiding in the neighboring woods and dragged him back into the village. Furious, they tied him to a tree near the northern fields and demanded that he confess to his crime. But Habu, despite being beaten and threatened, refused to admit to any wrongdoing. In a moment of blind rage, one of the villagers picked up a bamboo stick and struck Habu on the head, splitting it open. Blood poured down his face as Habu slammed to the ground, motionless. The others, seeing him lifeless, unleashed their fury. They attacked his body in a fit of collective anger, hitting him repeatedly. By the time they were done, Habu was no longer breathing. His cries and laughter, the hallmarks of the village madman, were silenced forever. As the villagers stood over his lifeless body, there was no remorse. They felt justified in their action, believing they had avenged the destruction of their precious pond. Slowly they dispersed, returning to their homes one by one, leaving Habu's lifeless body abandoned near the northern file by the pond. The next day, a foul stench began to spread as Habu's body started to decompose. Worried that the smell would reach the village, a few villagers decided to bury him in the field near the pond. They dug a shallow grave, placed his body in it, and covered it with dirt, hoping to erase the memory of what had happened. But little did they know, the story of Habu Pagla and his tragic end was far from over. A few days later, a man named Ramu was walking down the path near the northern fields. As he approached the area, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. His eyes widened in fear. His expression grew twisted and unnatural, and he began speaking in a chilling voice that wasn't his own. They killed me. What did I do to deserve this? They killed me. The voice was eerily familiar to anyone who had known Habu Pagla madman. Ramu, now moving in a trance-like state, stumbled toward the village, muttering the same word over and over again. His gait was unsteady, and his tone grew louder with every step. The villagers seeing Ramu in this state were gripped with terror. His voice, his mannerism, everything resembled Habu madman. They couldn't deny it any longer. Habu's restless spirit had returned, possessing Ramu to exact his revenge. Before anyone could intervene, Ramu suddenly ran toward a large pond at the edge of the village. Without a moment's hesitation, he jumped into the water and vanished beneath the surface. The villagers scrambled to rescue him, searching the pond desperately for his body. They searched every corner, but Ramu was nowhere to be found. It was as if he had disappeared into thin air. The incident left the villagers shaken to their core. Rumors began to spread like wildfire, and soon everyone in the villages believed that Habu and man, vengeful spirit, had returned. They were convinced that he was punishing them one by one for the cruelty they had inflicted upon him. Fear consumed the village. People whispered about hearing strange voices at night, about shadows moving where no one should be, about a little carried by the wind. One by one, families began to leave seeking safety in nearby villages. No one wanted to remain in what had now become known as a cursed place. Over time, the one lasting village turned desolate, its homes abandoned and its streets empty. The name of the village was forgotten by outsiders, but among those who had lived there, it came to be called the cursed village. The tale of how madman revenge became a cautionary story passed down through generations, warning people of the danger of cruelty and injustice. And so the northern fields and the pond remained shrouded in mystery and fear, a silent witness to the tragic event that had unfolded.